Yeah, well, as you suggest, those three separate locations that we are looking at now with a major police response in the centre of London. And I think it's probably apposite to start with what we are being told by police at this stage, because much of what we are hearing is unconfirmed details at this point. Police say they were called to a first incident at 22:08 hours local time. Reports of a vehicle in collision with pedestrians on London Bridge. That is the first incident. They then say officers have also responded to reports of stabbings in Borough Market. Armed officers, the tweet goes on, responded and shots have been fired. And then a third tweet, officers are now responding to an incident in the Vauxhall area. Now, London Bridge, Borough Market and Vauxhall are very close together indeed. So while we are talking about three locations here, we may well be talking about one overall incident. This would tally with some of the eyewitness reports we were getting, which suggested talk of a van ploughing into pedestrians on London Bridge, then an assailant or more than that getting out of the van and trying to stab people. That would therefore tally with the idea that some of these stabbings have taken place slightly further away from London Bridge. Some eyewitness reports had suggested that some of the assailants had managed to make it away from the scene. So clearly that is one line of inquiry for police, and that is why so many locations in central London now are simply being sealed off and shut down. We're hearing many people in this very busy part of the British capital, inside bars and pubs and clubs, who are being told to just stay where they are for the moment. We've seen video of police officers descending on some of these locations and telling people to get down on the ground and stay there. So some pretty chaotic scenes in the centre of London, as I say, which is a very busy location, of course, on a Saturday night. This is an area connecting the north and south of the river in the British capital. There are bars and pubs and clubs and restaurants. It is a very busy part of the city indeed on a Saturday night.
So, Ollie, when they say it's on lockdown, does that mean the railway, the transportation, taxis, buses, everything will be shut down until they have this situation under control?
Certainly in the surrounding area of London Bridge, much of public transport has been ground to a halt. We have been told that the tube stations and train stations in the vicinity have been closed for the moment. Obviously, London Bridge itself is completely closed off. That is a major thoroughfare, as I suggest, connecting the north and south of the city. So yes, huge disruption in terms of transport in the centre of the city. And police are also just telling people to stay away from the area if they can. And they've also been taking to social media to put out their advice for situations like these, which is called run, hide, tell. The idea being that people should get away from these locations first, then make sure they are safe, and then get in contact with authorities.
Given the world we live in right now, Ollie, what kind of preparation do you think London police have been taking for an incident just like this?
They will have prepared for an incident just like this. There have been many exercises over recent years in which they have prepared for just this sort of thing. And we did see within minutes of this incident unfolding, we saw police officers, police cars, police vans and also ambulances descending on the location very, very quickly indeed. As we saw in Manchester as well, just 10 or so days ago, we saw the emergency services rushing towards the scene of an unfolding outrage. And certainly we're seeing that again with emergency services this time around. They will have prepared for a situation like this. And certainly after Manchester and certainly after the Westminster attack that we saw back in March as well, police and security services were certainly praised for their response to the incident. Those incidents did lead to questions about intelligence and security in the run-up to the attacks, but certainly the police are very well prepared indeed, unfortunately, for an event like this.
Give us a sense of the mood right now and the possible anti-Muslim mood in London right now. What is the feeling? How are people going about their everyday lives?
Well, I think people have been going about their everyday lives as usual. London has been a city on alert for some time with regard to Islamist terrorism, but also before that, of course, with the IRA during the Northern Ireland troubles. And so this is a city that deals with this type of threat hanging over it and deals with that pretty well. People do tend to go about their normal lives as they always have done. But certainly this may begin to change if we see more and more incidents like this. After recent attacks, we have also seen a spike in hate crimes. It has been statistically significant. It's not a huge number of crimes we're looking at, but we do see a spike in those numbers after incidents like these. We do also see, we should say, we saw this with Manchester. Very much so. We saw a sense of unity, actually, in Manchester. The Muslim taxi drivers in the city were widely praised for driving to the scene to help people get away. And actually, I think Manchester is a city that has come together, if anything, after the attack by Salman Abedi on the Manchester Arena. So you would expect and hope that that might be the same situation this time around with London. But as I say, the more of these attacks that there are, the more difficult that would become.